Since we don't have a recording secretary and the meeting is being recorded, I would recommend that I can just take summary minutes, recording the votes and who was present, basic information, and then we will have the video available for people to get a fuller picture. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yes.
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 Okay. Moving on then to item 2. I plan to review the rules of decorum, the bylaws regarding member duties, and the rules of order. But since we do have a fairly full meeting tonight, I'd asked all the council members to do that in advance. Have you had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anybody who hasn't had a chance to review those? Okay, that's good. Any public comment on item number 2? And Charles, maybe you could explain how we'll handle the public comment. I think we have some members of the public on. They can raise their hand using.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of feedback when the chair speaks.
Are you using both your phone and computer, Cynthia?
No, I just have my computer on.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think it's fine now. There was that one spot where it got like a twang, but I think it's clear now.
I'm trying to share my screen with the agenda. Are you seeing that?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well.
So I think the way we'll do public comment is if you're using the Zoom app, there's a raise hand feature. So you can go ahead and raise your hand. And is anybody calling in on the phone, Charles?
There are people on phone, yes.
There's a certain keystrokes they do on phones to raise their hand. Is that right?
It's *6 to raise your hand, I believe, and *9. Let me see if I can find that out.
Well, I think right now everyone is unmuted, so if there are any members of the public who would like to comment, you can go ahead and do that now, and this is for item number 2. Hearing no one speaking, we'll move on to item number 3, which is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone who has public comment for items not on the agenda? Okay, then we will move on to our guest reports. I do not believe that Cody Shell from County Planning is on. Are you on, Cody? And I also don't see Commander Manueli unless he's on the phone.
Are you able to see and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Regarding county code enforcement, I had an email just a few minutes ago from District County Supervisor District 4 staff saying that the county doesn't have an assigned code enforcement person to give us a name to attend these meetings right now. They're still trying to sort out how to work code enforcement with the advisory councils during the pandemic. So no guest reports at all. And then we will move on to item 5, which is presentations. And the first one up is the Grundfor project. And do we have Scott Grundfor on?
I'm here.
Oh, that's you. Okay. I don't see any name associated with you, so sorry about that. And also Cindy Chambers, who's the county planner. Maybe you could just give us a little overview of the project. We have seen the drawings and the county referral package, but if you could just talk a little bit about your vision, I think that would be good, Mr. Grunford.
Sure. Well, I guess you know what it looks like. It's going to look like. I don't know what I would add to that. I want to build, 4 buildings with, they'll have 2 commercial spaces downstairs of about 1,200 feet each. So there'll be 8 commercial altogether in 4 buildings. And then upstairs will be 4 apartments, 1-bedroom apartments. And I guess, I have a pretty good sense of Oceano and its history. And I realize that this is going to be a significant part of the downtown. So I'm sensitive to that. I know that these are modern buildings as opposed to, what would have been in this area back at the, turn of the century or the 1920s. But this is, I think they're attractive buildings. And, if we can ever get through planning, which is takes quite a while, then we'd like to start on them. So I don't know what else you'd like to know. I restore antique cars, and I have a collection of antique cars also. So I have a history of interest in historical things because of the cars. I don't know if you've heard of the Pebble Beach Concours, which is sort of the epicenter for the show of classic cars. I'm a panel judge there, which I judge every year in the preservation class. It would be great if this property had, period buildings that just needed to be stored, but it doesn't. And one other thing too, there was a homeless camp there, and we trying to, well, we finally cleaned up the place. The sheriff's department had to come down and talk to the folks there. There was 10 dump loads of stuff. I had not walked to the back of the property and seen it. I thought there were just 2 people there. But it was quite a mess. We're also I'll be down there. I have a ranch here in Arroyo Grande where my shop is, and I'm going to be bringing my own tractor down. It has a brush hog, and I'll be cleaning it up and cutting down the brush so it'll look a bit better. So, any other questions or anything you'd like to know from me? Also with me is Chuck McConnell, who is a good friend of mine. He built my house. He's also a classic car guy, and he is general contractor on this.
Thank you, Mr. Grunford.
My pleasure.
I think given our format, it might be most efficient if we just go down the line with the council members, and you'll each have an opportunity to ask any questions of Mr. Grunford or Cindy Chambers, the planner on this project. And please be respectful, try to keep your comments brief because we do have a full meeting, and stay on topic. So I'm just going to go down the list here and start with Mr. Varney.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grunford, for being able to come by today. And I've got, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for getting your property cleaned up. It really was becoming, more than an eyesore, just sort of a larger issue in the community.
Sure.
And I think everybody in the community appreciates that. I wondered if you had any plans for, doing some sort of just, either symbolic or really secure fencing around the property to prevent people, or if you have plans to prevent people from coming in there and just doing it again.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna clean the property up. I'm not sure about what I'll do with the fences. There are some fences there that I guess possibly could be mended. I'm gonna put some signs up too that say private property and no trespassing. And also, I come down to the Quintessa coffee shop quite often,
Okay.
so I'll just check it out. So I'll be checking it. It's probably several times a week. And if there are any issues, I've talked to. I don't know if you're familiar with Danny Miller, who is a deputy sheriff here,
Mhm.
who is very helpful, and I think he is part of his job is dealing with the homeless people, and so he's, I think, very sensitive to that. I mean, I felt terrible about having to tell these people they had to, go someplace else, but I just don't know how you deal with that.
Mhm.
Um,
And then
outside
there's
of moving out. Mhm.
is the motorhome that's parked kind of at the other end, is that on your property as well?
It is, and I gave it's a family
Uh-huh.
who are having a really difficult time. They were, as I understand it, going to get subsidized housing. That hasn't happened, but they're very, I think, responsible, decent people, and until until I decide that we're moving ahead on this, I don't have any plans to
Okay.
ask them to move.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. With regards to the project, I know that in your and my conversation, you said that given everything that's going on, you're kind of like put up the yellow light on it, which is certainly understandable. The a concern that I have and that we have discussed in the council previously is the issue of pedestrian safety once your development comes in there, especially, and there's people living over there and a lot more, and you've got a coffee shop across the street. So obviously there's going to be a lot more pedestrian crossing, and well, if you stood down there at Quintessa, that very few people are going 30 miles an hour when they come around that
I just
corner.
about had my door taken off
Yeah. Oh
a
yeah.
couple of
We all
months ago
have.
because there's not a whole lot of room.
Right.
So
We were talking about one of those pedestrian controlled crosswalks there, where I mean they push the button and the lights go on and traffic has to stop. As really it's just that would be the standard of safety that I'd like to see there.
well, we haven't got quite that far with the planning about crossings, but yeah, Chuck McConnell maybe can address this. I think that when we had our meeting with all of the county planners, and I mean there's a whole bunch of folks there,
Sure.
we discussed, I think certainly having at least one crosswalk. And I think probably the best thing is what you suggest, to have one of those. The people seem to pay attention to it, like in the village,
Oh yeah.
when those lights start flashing, people stop. And otherwise it's, it's kind of a dicey thing.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield.